Okay, great. Right. So hi, everyone. Happy Easter. I hope you're all doing well and having a blessed day. I would like to officially welcome you all to Cornerstone Partners' second webinar as part of our Be Bold, Be Agile and Be Resilient series, which is focused on providing you with tips and guidance on how to navigate through this challenging time. So today we've got some amazing panelists who I'll introduce in just a little bit. But yeah, they've taken time out of their day to share their knowledge and experiences with us all. So we're really excited to have them. And for us, it's important that we provide you with a mixture of experts in their respective fields, as well as founders who are going through the challenges themselves. There is nothing better than getting advice from those who have lived it and who are walking the walk. So why are we here today? Right, so the COVID-19 pandemic has turned our lives upside down, and we still don't understand the full scale and impact, and this is yet to be determined. So, you know, as a result, many businesses have been forced to close their doors. Many businesses have, you know, had to close down. Supply chain and disruptions have been disrupted, and companies have been focusing on cutting costs, and this will only continue. This particularly impacts products and service providers, people, employees, gig workers, freelancers, and the like. So many of us have already been impacted, right? You know, we've all been impacted. And many business owners are going through a difficult task of letting staff go. So today, we're here to talk about just that. Today, we're going to discuss the following topics: managing relationships with your key stakeholders, including suppliers and customers, understanding the needs of your employees and offering your support and flexibility during these times, and understanding your role that your business can play to your local community during these difficult times. So yeah, as mentioned, we've got some amazing guests who are going to discuss these topics with us today. So I would like to thank you again for tuning in on this Good Friday and spending some time with us. And if it's your first time tuning in, I'd like to say hi and welcome. Thanks for joining us. And if this is your second time, it's nice to see you and speak to you again. I'm sure most of you are familiar with Cornerstone Partners, but for those of you who are not, Cornerstone Partners are an angel syndicate. We invest in Black-owned and diverse businesses here in the UK and offer both debt and equity investment. So Cornerstone Partners started a few years ago by a group of friends, you know, who started this WhatsApp group, and, you know, they began to talk about investment. Today, we are 20 partners strong and we're an angel syndicate. So we're passionate about changing the status quo, breaking down barriers and creating more space and access to capital for Black and diverse businesses. So who am I? I've not introduced myself. Hi, I'm Chanel Answer. I'm the head of Cornerstone Partners Angel Syndicate, and I'm also a founder myself. Firm is called Nell Consulting. So we provide strategy and operations and procurement expertise to startups and corporates. Now, without further ado, I would like to introduce you to our panelists for today. So I'm going to start by welcoming Joanna Abaye. Hi, Joanne.
Hi.
Hi. So, Joanne, just to tell you guys a little bit about Joanne. Joanne, sorry.
Don't worry. My mum would have killed me if I didn't correct you.
No, it's good that you did, because people call me Chantel all the time and it absolutely annoys me.
Okay.
So thanks for doing that. Yeah, so Joanna is an award-winning entrepreneur, journalist and broadcaster. She's been awarded with an MBE and has been recognised by the Prime Minister and the Mayor of London for her efforts in pushing the diversity agenda. She is the founder of Hayden Executive Search, which focuses on placing diverse senior leaders in the media and creative industries. And she's also the founder of Blue Moon Recruitment. So thanks for being with us today, Joanna.
You're welcome. That's nice to be here.
Perfect. Next, I would like to introduce Ruth Yamika Afolabi. Did I say your name right?
Okay.
Okay, Yamika Afolabi. So Ruth is the founder of the international women's magazine Magnify. So Magnify focuses on faith, feminism, and fashion. So Ruth has built a brand empowering the modern day woman across the globe, and she's a seasoned speaker and an author of More Direction. So thanks for being with us today, Ruth.
Thank you for having me.
Great. Okay. Now I would like to introduce Jamelia. So Jamelia Donaldson is the founder of Treasure Tress, Europe's first and largest natural hair care product delivery box. Jamelia has been featured in Forbes and has been described as redefining Black women's hair care. She is also the founder of the Teen Experience, which focuses on delivering personal development workshops to young Black women. So thanks for being with us, Jamelia. Nice to have you.
Thank you for having me, guys.
Great. Right. Last but not least, the only gentleman on the panel today. Nonetheless, Peter Alowe, so our very own Peter. So Peter is one of the founding partners at Cornerstone. Alongside this, Peter is, has over 15 years experience in all things people. So talent, recruitment, HR, all things people, Peter, completely excels at. Recently, well, actually not recently, actually, in the last couple of years, Peter's kind of taken a bit of a turn, and he owns a suite of Subway franchises here in the UK. So we think that's pretty awesome. So it's not just Shaq that's doing, the whole franchise thing. Peter Alowe is also doing it too. So that's great to hear. So, right, let's get stuck into it. So guys, I'd just like to thank you all for joining us today on this Friday. There is a chat functionality on the webinar, and you can also submit questions. I would encourage you to submit questions as we kind of go through the session, and we will reserve about between 20 to 30 minutes at the end of the webinar where I will direct your questions to each of the panelist members. So yeah, please, any thoughts that come to mind, any comments, do share them. We want to hear it, and we'll try to get them answered. So just to recap on the topics for today. So managing your relationships with key stakeholders and customers, understanding the needs of your employees and offering support and flexibility, and understanding the role that a business can play in supporting your local community. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go through each of the topics, and I will throw it to the panelists and ask them for some insights, guidance, advice. As mentioned, we have specialists, in the people space, and we also have founders who are going through and are living the topics that we're going to talk about today. So yes, okay, let's start. Right, so managing your relationships with key stakeholders and customers. I'm going to start by throwing this to Jamelia, only because I know at Treasure Tress, you have a team. Supply chains have been disrupted at the moment, just navigating difficult conversations with suppliers, etc. How are you dealing with this at the moment?
I think the best approach at the moment, or the approach that we're taking anyway, is just honesty and transparency. I know that as a consumer myself, I've really valued the communications that we've had from literally every retailer we've ever ordered from in the last 10 years. So I've had emails from Sainsbury's, Tesco's, Misguided literally every single day, Pretty Little Thing, and the list goes on. But I think one thing that I'm grateful that COVID has allowed is just 100% transparency as business owners and ultimately as humans. And I think because it is such a shared experience, everyone's going through the exact same thing. People have been more understanding than we would ever have imagined. So for us, the approach for our customers has just been over communication and transparency. They're aware that their boxes for April will arrive slightly later. And it's because we've had to limit the number of people at the warehouse, deliveries arriving late, which always makes it tough. But we've experienced it in the past, but now we also have to layer on top the bank holiday weekend, and on top of that, the limitations as far as COVID and the extra time that it does take to clean, to disinfect, and to just ensure that everyone's maintaining social distancing. So for our consumers, it's just about over communication. Like, this is when your products are going to arrive. This is why, and this is what we're doing. And then for our brand partners or our like corporate clients, it's more a conversation of getting to know them more, which I've actually really enjoyed. I've had so many like just human to human conversations that I otherwise would not have had. I've literally been on the phone to them for hours talking about everything while we also discuss business things. So it's like, okay, what are you guys doing? A lot of the retailers have closed their doors, which obviously limits their sales. So I've just been trying to think, how can I possibly help? Like, okay, you're not doing as many sales as you were before. What can we do to help? What can we do to fill that void? And what can I do just to understand your needs a bit more than I have in the past? And where everyone's working from home and I've got everyone's pretty much undivided attention, I'm actually able to have some really deep conversations. Okay, what are the struggles of the business? What are the limitations going to be in the future that you can already see? What's the longer term impact of COVID-19? And then how can we help with that? So on both ends of the spectrum, on both sides, it's just about transparency, maintaining the conversation. But then I think also a layer of vulnerability where we're like, look, this is actually what's happening. As much as we would like to act as if we know what's going to happen next, none of us have a clue. But the best thing that we can do is just maintain communication. So it's been great speaking to you. Let's speak again next week, and let's just keep the conversation going that way.
Okay. Have you found that any suppliers have been particularly accommodating with spreading out payments because businesses have been impacted?
I haven't had those conversations as yet, so I can't necessarily answer that. But I can imagine that some will be, and I can imagine that some will be the opposite, in that they also have payroll to meet. They also need to manage their cash flow. So as much as they would like to, I can only imagine that it would be a difficult conversation.
Great. Thanks, Jamelia. So Ruth, just going to throw the question to you. How has it been for you, running this international women's magazine? You're dealing with stakeholders all over the world. How has it been for you?
Yeah, so we were actually in the middle of production for our next issue and had the cover start over from the States, and then she had to go back the next day due to the travel ban. So that has really impacted what we've done. But the same way as Jamelia, particularly with our audience and community, we've over communicated. And I guess the blessing in this horrible situation is the fact that everyone's in the same boat, so everyone completely understands. But for me, it was important because we also run a lot of events rather than just immediately cancelling things. We kind of took 4 days, and that was pressure because initially it was like you were seeing all these emails, as Jamelia said, from any company that you'd ever interacted with, and we were thinking, should we just communicate? But I was like, it's better to actually come to the audience and say, this is the plan that we have. So with our events, obviously switching a lot of things to webinars or Zoom or IG Live, interviewing people there. So I think with our audience, it wasn't just doom and gloom that everything's going to be impacted, but actually these are the great ways now that online will be able to communicate with you anyhow. With our board and other stakeholders, again, I took a few days to actually look at the different areas of what we do. So it's events, it's print, digital content, and map out for them. These are what will be impacted. This is what I can foresee are the changes that we can make. These are obviously the areas that are unknown that we'll be looking at, but we can't make a decision on. But for us, the main impact was in the area of our rent for our building, because our landlord was the complete other extreme to a lot of people who've been understanding, and also with stockists, because we're stocked in around 60 outlets across the world. I understand that everyone has been impacted. So some people have been understanding, whereas other people are like asking for payments for things that are due in 6 months because obviously their cash flow has been impacted. So I think where possible, we've tried to be understanding, and things that are not so much of a pressure point for us, we've tried to let that go. But the last thing I would say is also because we work with a lot of freelancers, just as Jamelia was saying, the kind of human element. So when we were on set, a lot of the freelancers, they had lost like 26 jobs that they over the next few months can't pay rent, can't pay mortgages, have got kids. So I just sent out an email afterwards just saying that we're really thinking of you, and just if there's anything that we can do. Obviously we can't do shoots at the moment, but I think just taking the time to be human and understand that for us it's fine because we still have our incomes, but a lot of people, they're not so fortunate.
Yeah, I agree. Perfect. Thanks, Ruth. And Peter, do you have a perspective?
Yeah, I think my experience is probably very similar to Joanna. She mentioned at the beginning of people actually being extremely understanding. I think it's interesting how, I mean, I've worked quite a bit with different organizations trying to help build like your brand and your value system and things such as that. And I think these are the times when your true values come to life. That you actually have to live out what you preach. You say you care about people and you care about your staff and you care about your stakeholders. I think this is when it really comes to life. And those who don't really believe that actually stand out a lot more. But what we've noticed is, first of all, in regards to staff, especially after we had to close down the different sites that we had, staff were very anxious. And as everyone already mentioned, I think there's a big human element of this, right? Actually just caring about the person beyond just being an employee. Obviously, there's a lot of anxiety around how am I going to pay my rent? And I think a lot of the uncertainty also came from, even though we put a lot of our staff, or all of our staff, sorry, on furlough, there was still a lot of uncertainty because of a lack of information from the government for obvious and understandable reasons about, okay, how's my pay going to be calculated? What does that mean for my rent next month? And for us, how we dealt with that is, number one, over communicating, I think, as someone mentioned before, just calling every kind of 2 days, finding out, hey, how are you doing? If this is the situation, potentially this is maybe what you can do. Have a word with your landlords and say X, Y, and Z, and really just helping them through the situation as people. I think also there's a massive just kind of mental health element of this too. I actually saw a few of my staff who genuinely were having a tough time, just anxiety around what does this also mean for my job in the future. I think that's something to be really, really sensitive towards. In regards to suppliers, oddly enough, I think this is probably, I've never faced a situation where it has been so easy to cancel bills. Suppliers have actually been extremely understanding. I think partly because everyone's humanity generally is coming out and everyone's understanding that, hey, we need to help each other out of the situation. But also you mentioned something at the beginning of the question, which was about relationships. I think a lot of the relationships and foundations that you've built previously to this epidemic coming up actually comes out in your ability now to reach out and say, hey, X from this company, I'm talking to you as a person, you know about my business, you know about the history, here's the situation right now, can we work out a plan moving forward? I even had some actual suppliers reach out to me before I reached out to them and said, hey, Peter, we know the situation, by the way, don't worry about your next repayment, which for me is absolutely amazing. And it just shows some of the positive things that can come out of a bad situation.
No, agreed. So I guess, you know, if I were to replay some of that, if any of you have suppliers that you're concerned about and you're not sure if you're going to be able to make the next payment and you've not heard from them, pick up the phone and call them. You know, you'll be surprised at how understanding they may be. And I think Ruth and Peter and Jamelia all touched on the points of over communicating and just making sure that your staff are good, talking to them often, talking to partners, talking to just anyone in your stakeholder map. Communication is really, really important right now. Perfect. Thanks. Okay, so move on to this. Okay, Joanna, you got something to say?
Can I just add a couple of points? So I was going to say, yeah, Peter, that was Jamelia that was speaking at the top.
Sorry, these names are mixing.
I know, I've got Jamelia's name on my square too, so it's confusing.
Yeah, sorry, it's just confusing.
But that was Jamelia's expertise there. No, so I was just going to say a couple of things really. So from a consultancy's perspective, and in terms of some of the clients that we've been working with. So obviously with diversity and inclusion, it's a focus for companies, but whether rightly or wrongly, it gets sort of paused and it's seen as a nice to have when the bottom line is really impacted. And then of course, what that can have actually is a huge impact on their people. So some of the challenges that they've had are now they're feeling there may be more so, but without the team, without being actually within the workplace, and instead having to manage that remotely. So one of the things that we've been doing is creating sort of buddies for every person, because we don't really know the home situations of every person that works for you. Some may be lucky enough to have some support systems around them and others may not. So one of the key things that we've done, we really care about the people in the organisations that we are working with. So we've created buddies for every single person that's within a number of the businesses that we're with, and we've said to them, if you know, you have to sort of check in with each other a couple of times a week, just to have that conversation and support where necessary, and just to let people know that, you know, maybe they live alone, maybe they've moved over from another country, maybe they have particular disability and therefore they're only having contact at the moment with carers. It's about just making sure that their mental health is also being considered, and that they're able to be productive within the workplace. And I think that's one of the key things. One of our clients actually is a trader, and they had to think about, when this all turned into sort of lockdown, they had to think about how they were going to get 9 screens to all of their traders' homes. And so one of the things that they then had to think about was, okay, what if the people that we're employing don't have space for 9 screens? What if they're living in small flats with lots of children? And so I think it's really taken us to negotiate, if you like, and I always pull on this term of equity. So what is it everyone needs to be successful within their own situation? And we've had to really work with businesses to say, well, how do we still keep the playing field as level as possible, even though some people would really be taking advantage of what they might be able to have while in the workplace, while at work, and also what disadvantages might some people have if they've got childcare in the background. And some of the things that I was just going to say, to the point that you've all made around communications, I sit on a number of boards and they all support various charities. So as you can imagine, there's a chain of us. There's the appeal board that fund them, and then there's the actual charities, and then there's the organisations that they directly liaise with, and all those people that are impacted. And some of the beautiful things that have come out of it have been the communication. It has been like, how many people have come together and said, what can we do to support? We're all in this together. Like, what do I know that I could share and give to you, or what expertise can I give? And that's been incredible. And one of the things that has been so amazing was one of the schools that I'm a governor for has obviously has a large number of students that would fall under SEN, so special and educational needs. And we've had literally parents of children who are able, taking bags of lunches and things to kids and homes where they may be struggling to afford the lunch times now that they're having their children at home. Keeping like particular areas, schools open so that vulnerable kids can come in. And I think the communication in that has been really, really important, because as a board member, the thing I was really concerned about was our SEN students and how they were going to be affected at home. And having a head teacher and all the teachers and all the parents so engaged and constantly speaking to me and to other governors has just made it so useful. So I think that communication thing's been absolutely like imperative to any of this doing really well.
Okay, awesome, thanks. So if we move on to understanding the needs of our employees. So, you know, how, you know, you've all touched on the point that, you know, employees, contractors, gig workers, freelancers, you know, that, you know, we're all going through it at the moment. So in your respective roles, how do you understand the needs of your employees, and how are you offering them support and flexibility in difficult times? Let's start with and then I'll Hey Peter.
Hey, sorry, I didn't quite hear it there. It's just breaking up. Yeah. So in terms of the needs, sorry, my phone's going off there. In terms of the needs, I think what the difficult things is, number one, balancing out the obviously current needs of the business itself, as well as still recognizing that this is a tough situation for employees. So right now, with 18 staff members, and basically that definitely also means 18 different needs, some students, some family people who are depending on obviously the money coming in, and not only just the money. One of the things that really stuck out to me too with some of my employees is it's just the kind of uncertainty again, and what feeling that brings to their ability to plan moving forward. I think the approach that we've really look to take is trying our best to be as bespoke as possible, recognizing that the number of staff that we have is still manageable, right? We can still reach out to that many people and say, hey, what's going on and what can we do further to support. The first thing that we've done is, number one, just making sure that we are, again, over communicating within the groups that we have. So we use Slack to communicate all different information about what's happening, what we're thinking may happen in the future. And I think one of the important kind of responsibilities that we have in general as business owners is actually also trying to forecast different scenarios and say, hey, guys, here's what the situation is right now. Here's the 4 or 5 ways it could plan out. And if these 4 or 5 scenarios happen, here's what it means to you. Because ultimately, that's also what they're looking for. And here's how, as a business, we're looking to support you. So making sure that's a centralized piece of communication that goes out and as consistently as possible and as the information comes in. I think that's extremely important. The second part of it is just a personal touch. For example, we have some staff who are telling us that in the short term, they won't be able to deal with, sorry, there's a bit of an echo. Yeah, there we go. So we're dealing with staff also who at the short term we're struggling in certain areas, right? So for us, we also see it as a way of building community. And I think this was mentioned a few times before, which is understanding that, yes, we can try our best to meet the needs, but why not use this as an opportunity for, especially if you've been able to build a cohesive just team, get other people also to support other people if they're fine with obviously the information being shared, right? And the good thing that we're seeing also from this that we're really proud of is that some of our staff members are actually reaching out to other staff members and they're supporting each other. Some of them live close to each other, especially the students, and saying, actually, I can support you with X, Y, and Z, which for me is also an amazing positive thing that's coming out of this. I think the last thing I'd also say about just the kind of trying to meet each and every single individual need is also just being, I guess, just being positive also, and just actually, I think with the news and with everything that's happening right now, it's so easy to go into like the abyss of what the worst case scenarios can happen, but also there's some scenarios that can happen that is not actually what's being said on the news. So just really making sure, while still being realistic and obviously keeping your feet on the ground, you're sharing positivity around and ensuring that that's reaching the hearts of all of your staff members. I think that's also key.
Great, thanks, Peter. So, Jamelia, have you furloughed your employees, or do you still have some guys on the team working with you?
I haven't furloughed any of the team, so everyone's still working as they were. Thankfully, as a business, we have a policy of work from home Wednesdays, because I like working from home. And it also mixes up the week a bit, it breaks up the week. So we're kind of used to working from home, which is the beauty of everything. Initially, when I sent the email on the 15th of March that, hey guys, next week we're going to work from home while I get the office deep cleans, I did not anticipate that that was going to be like the last email that I would send regarding us going into the office. But we've been able to be really, really flexible. I'm really grateful for the fact that I've not had to furlough anyone. But I think Peter made some really good points about encouraging the team to lean in. So there's been odd days where I haven't been feeling too good, or one of the other ladies on the team haven't been feeling too good, and we've literally been on the phone like, okay, who have you got a meeting with today? All right, let me take that meeting. You take the rest of the day off. I'll let you know how it goes. Just send me the invite and just give me a quick rundown on what I need to discuss. And literally everyone on the team has done that at some point, because as Joanna rightly mentioned, it takes a toll on your mental health. So a lot of the time, I think what we're going to see a lot of is people experiencing symptoms of COVID, but it's not necessarily COVID. It's literally our psyche just playing tricks on us, because every day we're inundated with negative news. The minute anyone gets a temperature or a headache, they start panicking. So I think it's important to allow people the space, but it does require the people themselves being able and feeling comfortable to speak up and demand that space. So they need to feel they can say, do you know what, I'm not feeling good today. Can someone take this meeting for me? I'll be back tomorrow, but I just need some time. I think just maintaining that is going to be crucial in this time, especially as there isn't a definite end date. We don't know when this is going to end. So it does take us leaning on each other as well to get us through this time. And yeah, I think that's probably the most important thing at this time.
Okay. And how about yourself, Ruth?
No, we haven't. We're quite small, so a lot of our team are freelancers.
Okay.
So possible, we still try to work with them. Anyone who's like full-time on our team, we haven't furloughed anyone, but it's more been the freelancers trying to see where we still can work with them. So for instance, our video director, which to editing kind of self-made video, still being able to give her work because she's getting married soon, and that just really broke my heart because she's had to move back home to Manchester, like she couldn't pay her rent here or anything. So where possible, we still try to look at whether our freelancers are multi-skilled, and so if someone's a video director but actually they can also do design, we've looked at how can we utilize their skills, because we have built up those relationships with them over the last few years. And just reassuring them that when we do come back, that we would still love to work with you. And as Jamelia and Peter said, just kind of checking up on people, because just even the fact that every day on the news we're hearing of thousands of people dying, that is not a new thing. Like, I know in the last 3 weeks we've kind of got used to that, in quote, but just people's mental health are being affected. But I've also tried to be very positive, because I genuinely do believe for us as an organisation it's refining our focus, and I don't think people necessarily want to hear from their boss on top of hearing from the news that everything is over. And so that was what with our audience, I was very careful to not be using the word cancelled in terms of our events. Actually, we're bringing you events in a new way, because I think language is really, really important at this time.
Yeah, thanks. So Joanna, what are your views? I mean, you deal with people who are in the job searching space. Are you having clients and candidates talk to you about their challenges, or people that you've placed talk about the challenges of having to work from home and not particularly do a 9 to 5 and maybe do like a 7 to 10 and then like a 3 to 5? And have you heard anything like that? Oh, I think you're on mute. Oh gosh. Okay. That's so weird. Okay. Whilst you are trying to get back online, I'm gonna just throw it to.
Hello?
Okay, perfect. Great. Yay.
Am I back? Sorry, I don't know what happened there. That's so bizarre. I was chatting away. No, do you know what? With what I do, it's executive search. So it's people that are sitting at board level or the C-suite, so CFOs. Yeah. So as you can imagine, those roles aren't volume. People usually go into a role and they're in it for 3 to 5 years if they're at that level. So in terms of that, we haven't had that. What we have had is we have been asked from our leaders, like, how do they ensure that they're inclusive during this time? And how are they leading inclusively and making sure that they understand all of the needs? And to your point, Peter, around there are 18 different people that you have to consider and what it is that they might need. Well, for some of these organizations it's 4,000 people, and sometimes it's globally, and they have different behaviours and cultures within each of their different territories. So it's been a lot of advice at that level. In terms of the consultancy, which takes up a larger part of our business on a day-to-day basis, I think it has been listening a lot. I mean, I've had sort of clients ring and talk to me, and actually it's not been about work, it's been something that's gone on really personally for them, and they sort of at the end of it go, oh yeah, and also what about that thing that we're working on? But actually so far what they've really needed is someone to kind of just tell that something's going on that's not maybe involved in their life so personally. So I've had a lot of that. I've had a lot of we've actually all come together. So a number of us who run a number of different businesses have brought together a podcast where we've just shared the truth of what's actually happening to our businesses, including things like furloughing staff. Unfortunately, some of the businesses have had to make quite big redundancies, and then what they've had to do to do that. A lot of businesses are mothballing at the moment. So actually where it's become I think more significant has been in this advice to people and leaning and sharing coping mechanisms, because it's really tough. And I think another thing that I found really interesting is I've been just talking about flexible working for a long time, and I think probably some of us on the call, where we either are leading an organisation or have always been quite independent, probably take for granted this flexible working bit, and the fact that, you know, you said, Jamelia, I have, you know, work from home Wednesdays, but from the sounds of it, it sounds like quite a informal, relaxed type of team, where maybe if someone else asked for a working from home on a Monday, that might not be, you know, such a big deal. But for some companies, this is entirely new to them.
Yeah.
And so they're really struggling with this new concept. And so some of the training that we run, which would usually be sort of in front of you know, in-house, I'm sort of saying this can all be done. Like, we can do it from the house. We didn't need to come in the first place. It was just the way you do things is that I've just gone with it, if you know what I mean, that we'll do it in-house. But these aren't things that we need to stop now. And as I say, when it comes to this thing about this feeling of belonging and value, now more than ever, people really need to feel like they have a role in your, for want of a better phrase, but supply chain, whichever role that they had, that they add value along the way. So we've taken a lot of our work online and said, look, we don't have to completely shut up shop, and we can postpone. And also, to your point, Jamelia, like where companies have said, we'd like you to help us with our retention of our BAME staff, or we'd like to think about how we're treating our disabled staff, and now we've got this time, I'd really like to focus on that. So where before we were only able to squeeze in maybe 40-minute chats or 30-minute conversations, now we're able to create whole strategies over 2.5 hours. Blocked in. So actually, for businesses that are really wanting to help their people, it's been a really nice time. Of course, we can't do a lot of the activity, but we can certainly plan it for when times are a bit more certain.
Awesome.
Yeah, and just to add one more thing to that, I think one of the important aspects of this is to think long term. I think a lot of the fruits of putting in and genuinely just caring about, for example, your staff, and sometimes won't actually also be seen in terms of the business impact until after all of this has blown over, and then when people have choices whether to stay in their organizations or not.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that people need to really start considering. I've had to support quite a few other business owners in regards to things such as that, and I think that's one of the things we're really trying to drum in. There's a lot of things, and this was said in the last webinar that we had, I think, by Royden, that business as we know it is changing. The social world as we know it is changing, and the core principles of business will remain the same. However, that people make your business, right? So if you mistreat people and don't follow through on your values, if you say you care about your staff right now, it would only show up in terms of the impact on your business anyway later on, right? So it's such an important thing to keep in mind.
And sorry, just one other thing. I just want to say this while we're on this topic, because in some of the other conversations that I've been having, there's a huge amount of pressure on people also to feel like while they've got this time working from home, they need to have written a book, coded a new program, like lost 4 stone, learned 3 languages. Like, it's a lot of pressure. Okay, so I just want to say that to anyone, like, we're this is a horrible time. Like, I've had some heartbreaking news in this period. Lots of people are having a really, really, really tough time. But also, like, don't feel this pressure that social media might be giving you, you know, to be up at 6 and working out and, like, you know, reading this book and just do what you need to do for you to get through this process, and to support your loved ones, and, you know, to keep your bubble kind of healthy. I remember I was on a call last week and I was in a really good mood and everyone else wasn't, and they were like, why are you so happy? And I'm like, I'm not watching the news. I can't watch the news. Like, the last week I watched the news, I cried every single day, and I can't do that. That's not working for me anymore, so I'm not watching it. And so I was like, you know, they're like, what did you do today? I was like, oh, I bought my cat a new collar. I haven't like done this incredible amount of work, but I was happy. Like, and then the next day I had a really full-on day of work, and I was training, and do you know what I mean? So it's just like, just take things as they come. Like, there's this huge amount of pressure on you. It's survival at the moment, and like, let's just deal with that, you know. And if you can fit other stuff, great. If not, doesn't make you this awful person that hasn't used his time productively. Like,
no, I think
just destroyed my to-do list.
Sorry.
You just destroyed my to-do list.
You go for it. If other people can't be bothered, that's also fine.
Yeah. No, it's so true, and well said, Joanna. I think you're completely right. A lot of people are putting pressure on themselves, and they're going on social media and they're thinking that they have to do all these things, and actually you don't. You just need to focus on doing what you need to do for that day, get yourself through that day, and then face tomorrow. And you know, different things make us happy, whether it's buying a collar for your cat, whether it's pouring yourself a glass of wine, or whether it's knitting, whether it's watching a TV show that is just about nothing but makes you laugh. I think it's just important to do what's right for you, and more importantly, don't put any more pressure on yourself. Yeah. So
I'll just show you the collar though, because
okay, yeah, you should.
How cool is this collar?
Is it like a little bandana?
It's a bandana.
Oh.
And then yeah, anyway, so that gave me a little bit of joy that day. I took it off obviously in about 5 seconds, but
we need that, you know, and let's continue to, you know, pass on that joy and the small things that make us happy with the different groups of people that we speak to, whether that's our employees, whether that's our suppliers, whether that's our corporate partners, whether that's, you know, even a neighbor or just anyone. You know, I think we all have a part to play in spreading joy, and that can be done in the tiniest of ways, such as sharing a picture of a bandana collar for a cat, or just sharing a joke.
I'll get the other one in a second.
Okay, so now I want to talk about kind of, you know, we've touched on this a little bit before. I think Joanna touched a little bit on this about, you know, community and, you know, just what we can do as business owners to, you know, support our local businesses. And it sounds like you're all doing great stuff, but it would be good just to talk a little bit about what it is that you are doing, and if you've got any advice or guidance for the guys that are tuned in to, you know, kind of get involved or think about how they can help their local businesses and community. Maybe let's start with Ruth.
So for us, one of the things we've been doing is spotlighting female founders within our community, because a lot of them, customers might be reprioritizing because a lot of people's finances have been affected. So for instance, people who are artists, shouting out that, you know, this might be a good time to buy their art, or if some of them are now doing like online kind of workshops, just letting our community know, because a lot of our female founders, that is their livelihood that they're seeing kind of go down the drain. So really being able to focus on them. And then the second thing we've done in terms of like our community is really communicating a lot with those who are in the health system, because they're obviously just doing such an amazing job, but just letting them know that in this time we're really thinking and praying for you. And we've really seen such like amazing response, because I think it's great, all this like female empowerment stuff, but as Joanna was saying, that this is just a really rubbish time. Like my mum's a doctor, so I know what it's like where you're one of the few people on the train every day literally putting your life on the line. So for us, we've done it in two ways: female founders, but also those who are in healthcare particularly, but also other key workers within our community, just reaching out to them. And I think, as everyone has said, brands that actually have shown to care about people and not just use it as a strap line, those are the ones I think will survive afterwards.
Great, awesome to hear. Joanna, are you on mute again? No. Okay. Oh, enough. Oh my gosh! Wait, no. Can you hold it up again so everyone can see this? This is a colour on the boat. This is so cute, and I love that your cat is a feature of this webinar. What's your cat's name?
Sorry, so sorry. Toby.
Toby. Okay.
That was a really good picture. No, I was going to say to that as well. Oh, I forgot what I was saying now because I was laughing at my cat. Reese, what was the last thing that you just said? Sorry.
Just that brands who've shown to actually care about people in this time, I think they're the ones that will survive after we come out of this.
It's really important, because I was going to say also, just to that point around key workers, like I think I posted something on Instagram about this the other day, but it's frustrating that sometimes people keep sort of going, you know, this COVID, it's an equalizer, you know, it is like, so I'm not laughing because this is funny at all, but I just think it's a ridiculous statement to make when they sort of say that it's not discriminating against anyone. It's, you know, its impact, of course it is from a health perspective, but the impact that it's having on everybody's lives is entirely different, and it has further shown the amount of inequality that is out there. And so I think one of the things that, you know, lots of typically, and sort of if you think about the way we treat some of our manual workers, it is almost as if they're not that valuable to they're not, oh, my cat's just sorry. That they're not that valuable to the society, and actually they're contributing so much. Like, I was thinking the other day, how are we even getting food? Someone's driving through the night,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean, while we're at home to get that food, like into the store so that we can all go there when we get our minute to go out and get our essential shopping. So I just think I've never felt so like my job feels a tiny bit redundant, like, because I can't save lives, and do you know what I mean, with my job, and I can't help business like food get to places, or I can't go and care for someone who is totally alone and has no other support. So in a way, I feel like the least we can do is make it easier on the lives of the people that we're sort of supporting, because I don't feel that much of a key worker at the moment at all.
I'm sure you're playing your part in your own way. And Jamelia, do you have any views on how, well, I mean, you do quite a bit in this space anyway. You know, you do the monthly workshops with women. So do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we had great plans to relaunch the teen experience in April. We were due to have our launch brunch again, where it's half teens and half older women or girls in various different industries, kind of forming the role of mentors, but not so officially. We just have like conversation starters and really strategically place and create the seating plan. So we had massive plans for that, which completely went down the drain. And that's something that we're still trying to navigate. Myself and Simone, who's also the co-founder, are scheduling in some meetings just to find out how we can continue to connect with these girls, especially given that a lot of them have had their last day of school without even consenting to. They said bye to their friends for the last time without even realizing. And that's really upsetting, especially when you don't know that you're going to have a summer holidays or when you're next going to see your friends. So for us, I'm trying to balance the responsibilities of the day-to-day of Treasure Trust while also not forgetting about the teens and the teen experience, and just trying to figure out how to navigate that and how to keep that alive online. And then, I forget what the initial question was.
Oh no, it was just understanding your role and understanding the role that your business can play in supporting the local community.
Right, that's it. So I think Joanna made a point in feeling like, oh, we can't deliver food, we can't save lives. But I think it does, it sucks in that respect. But then I think also we just have to think a bit longer and a bit harder about the value that we are adding. And I know for us, when Women's Treasure Trust boxes arrive, they feel like, oh, finally, like, this is permission for me to take time for myself. I can take care of my hair, like, this is about self-care. So for us in our communications, we've been going heavy on the humorous posts to keep people laughing, to keep people sharing, engaging, tagging their friends. But then also with the communications that come inside the box, a heavy focus on, as Joanna said, like, sometimes ignore the news, sometimes off the TV, go and deep condition your hair, play your favorite song, steam your face at the same time, read a book, like, do things that make you feel good. So I think in this time, it sucks that we can't save lives, we can't deliver food, we can't create the cure, but I think we just have to maybe dig deep and just try to find the value that we do add to society and try to amplify that as much as we possibly can. And then as far as like our immediate physical community, I think the most important thing that we've done this month in particular is engage with and hire locally for the warehouse to ensure that people that are working in the warehouse aren't getting on trains, buses and tubes to get to work. So we've literally leaned on people that live in the local area to be like, hey, can you come to the warehouse this month? Because usually we'll switch it up and have people from all over. But this month it's been important that we choose people that don't have to travel very far to get to work. Some of them can walk, which is limiting their interaction with others. And then somewhat lowering the risk of any infection or transmission of infection.
Okay, thanks, Jamelia. So I'm going to ask Peter next, because I know like community and supporting community and local community, something that I know is very dear to your heart. So what are your views, Peter?
Yeah, so unfortunately, there's not a lot we could do as like actual open restaurant, because obviously we had to shut until everything gets better. But before we did have to shut doors, we were able to gather around because one of our sites is actually within a retail park. And I think what was really powerful is we didn't do it on our own, so we were able to get some of the other restaurants within the retail park for us all to come together to donate food to those who are homeless and those who just needed it, right? And I think for me, what's even bigger than that is really entrenching a culture of community support within your whole business and within your whole community, right? And letting it be something that's normal. Because at the end of the day, it's so easy to only look at your community as a source of money and funds and making sales, but I think it's also important to actually see it as, to some extent, a responsibility, right? To actually feed the community that feeds you. So I think we're trying to do that obviously in a literal sense, because we are a restaurant. But one thing that's also really encouraging that's coming out of this is to start actually seeing some of our staff members just kind of carry that on. And again, we work through Slack, and a few of them are sending things that they're doing within their community, their own personal, like down their roads and things like that within the Slack group, and pictures, which for me and my wife who run the stores together is actually very touching and moving. So just seeing that culture build within our business and within the community, it's really, really special.
Great. So yeah, so just to share a little bit about what we're doing at Cornerstone Partners. So community is one of our, our core values. So right now, as well as doing these webinars, we're constantly thinking of things that we can do, and where we are limited in terms of what we can do physically. There are other things that we are doing. So some of the organisations that we are supporting is the Trussell Trust Food Bank. Members within Cornerstone that are doing their food shop, we're contributing money from Cornerstone for them to buy some extra provisions and donate it to the food bank, because some people can't get out at the moment to get food. So this organisation is kind of focused on making sure that vulnerable people are getting the essentials they need to keep them going. So yes, so that's something that we're doing. In general, unrelated to COVID-19, we donate 10% of our proceeds and money raised to a charity at Cornerstone. So yeah, that's some of the things, and we continue every single day. Someone within the Cornerstone family sends a message about something that we could be or should be doing to support our community even more. So it's great to hear that you guys are doing such great things with your own businesses and personally. Yeah, Joanna.
Oh, sorry, I just had one thing. Ruth, I'm on it again, aren't I? I won't shut up. Me and Ruth were on a panel the other day and I couldn't stop talking. I just had another idea. It was just that sometimes, so my partner and I, so we have 10 nieces and nephews.
Mm-hmm.
So my partner, not my business partner, my actual at-home partner. Yeah. And I have 7 or 8, probably, I'm just going to say 9 godchildren, and they're in separate groups, and we've been giving them activities to do, because I think mums, I'm not a mum, but I know that it's quite hard for them, trying to get on with their day and their work, if they're having to work from home, as well as occupy and educate their little ones. So even if you can, sometimes just when you finished your day, or when you're having a break in your day, maybe just FaceTiming one of your friends and having a chat with their kid, just to free them up 20 minutes or so, where they're occupied talking to you, or and they don't have to be boring tasks. I just say things like, when you go for a walk, tell me what you see, or at night time, try and find out 3 things about the moon, or do you know what I mean? Just little things like that to help your friends, to just give them 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Off the back of the point Joanna made before, not just for founders and business owners, but everyone. I saw a quote that says, not everyone has the luxury of turning a pandemic into a time of productivity. And I think it's just knowing whether it's that your business genuinely you just are fighting for survival, or as a founder, like as much as we've all said we're trying to be encouraging, we're also worried about our own health, our family's health. So I think it's just important to remember and be mindful of like the time that we're in, and that everyone is trying to do the best that they can, but this just is an unprecedented time where actually looking after your mind and your emotions as well as obviously your health is really important.
So important. So important.
100%.
Okay. Any more to add? I'm just going to look at some of the questions that the guys have been sending through as you've all been speaking.
I won't say any more. I'll be quiet now.
No, you're welcome to say as much as you wanted, Joanna. It's fine.
Bring on your cat. Bring on your cat also.
He just came in and totally threw my last answer, by the way. He was scratching at me to come up and see what was going on up here.
Oh, bless.
I took a photo.
Right, so I've got a question from Sarah for Ruth. So Sarah says, Ruth, how in such a time are you able to enhance customer engagement and interaction, especially as a main part of your business deals with print?
So I think I'd probably say actually a third of what we do is print. It's just print happens to be the thing that people know us more for. So I think what was helpful was actually last year I'd been thinking about how do we become a digital first brand, even though our kind of flagship offering, that's what's in stores and different things. So I think for us it hasn't been too much of a change, and it's also forced me to let go of perfectionism, because we'd had a lot of digital and a lot of ideas in the wings, and I was like, no, it's not quite ready, we need to make sure that we've like planned it out for 3 to 4 months before we launch anything. Whereas now it's just been like, we don't have the luxury of that, we just need to actually go. And I think in that, as much as the magazine is very high standard, people have appreciated, you know, being on live chat with some of the interviewees and actually seeing them all dressed up for a shoot. So I think for us it really hasn't been too much of a thing, because at the core of why we exist is to inspire and empower women, and print is just one way that you can. But actually, if you're really passionate about doing that, you will find a way through other platforms. And we did actually start off through, well, after an event, we started off on digital content before we had the print magazine. So yeah, I think it's just been important to throw away perfectionism and replace that for authenticity.
Awesome. Thanks, Ruth. I've got a question for Peter, and I guess Joanna, if you have any insight, you can chip in afterwards. So, the question is from Ade. It says, with some employers having to furlough staff, the government has a deadline for this scheme. So at this time, it is somewhat easier to have a conversation with suppliers as they are being supported by the government scheme. Do you have a plan for worst case scenario if this lockdown goes beyond May?
Very good question, and that was, as soon as everything started happening, that was one of my biggest concerns. I guess that the plan, first of all, is to actually start having the conversation with suppliers about that now, right? So not waiting for obviously that situation to happen. So I've already started having that conversation with at least like 50% of my suppliers. A lot of them are kind of giving the answer of, we'll deal with that when it comes. But I think a lot of them are also showing just openness to still have some kind of terms put in place, understanding that at the end of the day, if our businesses are closed and in a sense, no funds are coming in, they also understand that, hey, there's no point chasing things up, right? So so that's one plan. The second plan also is, I'm sure everyone's been kind of tired of hearing this, but cash flow is number one right now, right? So just doing everything possible to not depend on still suppliers saying we're going to hold back. So just doing everything creatively possible to kind of constrict that and constrict the kind of amounts going out, and then just maintain everything as it goes for now. But also I think that the government have shown good support so far. I guess one of my concerns is what this means in the long term, but that's a conversation for another day. But also, I mean, in terms of economics, it just wouldn't make sense for that all to collapse, because I mean, we're already in trouble as it is. So I'm suspecting that if it does go further than that, hopefully the government, for the sake of the economy, will still try and put certain measures in place to support businesses like ours.
Perfect. Thanks, Peter. And Jamelia, what about yourself? If this lockdown goes on past May, have you started to scenario plan?
Yeah, I've already started to scenario plan. I think our business is quite different from many in that we've always been online based. We've always been e-commerce. So we don't have to from like a physical location and then pivot the business to more digital. But saying that, we do have to think about our logistics and how we continue to get things out on time and how we continue to bring things in on time. But yeah, unfortunately, because it's unknown, the best we can do is scenario plan and pivot and adapt, be vulnerable, be honest, and be transparent. And that's pretty much all we can do.
Awesome. Thanks. So before I get on to the next question, I just want to encourage you guys to send through your questions. We've had quite a few, but send them through. And even if we don't get to cover them on the webinar, I will ask the guys to answer your questions and we'll respond to you. So next question is for Joanna. So question for Joanna is, what type of tools are you able to still effectively implement with your clients working from home? And are you finding them to be successful?
Yeah, so I've been running workshops, like webinars like this, essentially with lots of people on, sometimes like large numbers. So that's been brilliant. I've still been able to do that. We've been, but as I say, these are effective, but they're effective now, having the results, but you've got to bear in mind that they're not happening on sort of like a daily basis, because businesses are in, like, they're trying to troubleshoot at the moment and things like that. So yeah, it's been a lot of that, telephone calls, Zoom meetings, hangout meetings like this, where clients have sort of just been on the phone saying, okay, we can't do anything now, because as you can imagine, for us, a lot of our revenue has stopped because businesses freeze any spending on anything like diversity and inclusion and culture, because as I said at the top of this, it's like a nice to have. So what we've been doing in that time is planning for when they can lift the freeze on their funds, and it's almost like what Jamelia said, it's scenario plan. So, you know, when we come back and, you know, we are back in the workplace, how will this have impacted well-being of people whilst they were at home? How might that change the way the organisation views flexible working? This thing around culture, and it totally changes it, doesn't it? Because it's actually not the culture of the office environment, but now it's the culture of our remote communication. And so it's been a lot of what we can't spend now, but we've been working with you for a long time, and we want to make sure that when we can spend, we know exactly what to do to support our people. Because as you can imagine, a lot of our businesses are so concerned about their people at the moment. Once they're having to let them go, which is awful, but then it's like they're letting them go into a world where not many people are, well, no one's hiring, no one's doing anything. So then it's about not only just managing them and trying to give them as much support as they can, even though they're having to let them go, but then it's about, well, when we then bring everyone back into the business, what have we got then? Like, how will we make sure that we've got committed people? And I think Peter made that point earlier, which is showing that you care now without without it feeling like a strapline or a publicity stunt, but no, actually taking care of your people. And I think, so as I say, it has been effective, because now we've got really quite robust plans and strategies, and people have learned a lot in this process for when we do return. But it's when do we return is the
question.
The uncertain, it's the uncertain thing.
So I know a lot of people have recently discovered Zoom as a great way to kind of communicate with everyone, not just staff. Are you guys using any other tools that you're finding to be quite effective? Pretty
much Zoom, Hangouts. We all kind of went quiet there, I think.
Yeah. Ruth, were you going to say?
Yeah, but I think there is. Yeah, I mean, there is a good point there, and I think going off the back of what Joanna said in terms of planning for the future, I think this a lot of people also have, including myself, I guess, have liberty of a bit more time now too, and I think the response to situations and environments such as this actually will dictate how, number one, you will survive, and number two, how much stronger you come out on the other end, right? So I'll give you an example right now. I mean, you really need to kind of try to keep your ears to the ground and look at what the world is going to look like after COVID-19 and what that actually means for your business. Because I think what this has reminded me as a business owner is that anything can happen at any time. And how am I preparing my business for the shifts in society? And I think one of the key things to also consider is that whenever you're looking at the future and where businesses might shift in the future and how to meet those needs with your business, you're kind of always running after a moving target. So whatever you're doing now needs to really cater for needs in X months time, right? So right now, what I'm working on is we're actually working with Subway, which I'm a franchisee with. I'm actually working with the head office to start working on. You mentioned about tools that we're using. I've noticed that some of the things are still quite outdated. So why not spend a bit more of this time now to actually work on software tools, online tools, apps that can actually support the business. So as soon as all of this is over, it's actually positioning the business to be in a stronger position if anything similar happens again, number one, but also number two, to actually prepare it for the new environment, right? Everything's going online. There are lots of businesses, large businesses, unfortunately, also having to shut down and not open back up again. The customers that used to go to those businesses now need to find other people to provide the services and products that they were relying on these businesses for. That also provides a huge opportunity, right? So I guess I'm just saying that we need to spend this time wisely because it can actually propel you to a next level of your business if you actually invest in the right way.
Yeah, just to follow up.
Okay.
I think that's also been a great, Jamelia, a great chance for founders, because often, particularly if you're not have like 100 employees, you're so busy in like the day-to-day kind of hour to hour of running your business. Yeah. I think for me, it's also given me a lot of time to think more from a long term, as Peter was saying, how are we actually risk planning? Because not to have doom and gloom, we don't know that there won't be a second peak of this, or that in the future something like this might not happen again. So just thinking, even though we're small, how can we actually plan for the future so that we are thinking of different scenarios, rather than, I'm often just very much head in the sky vision, it's all going to be great, there'll be challenges, but we'll get through. I think this is also a good chance to think of, look at your business as a whole, and where are areas that you can develop, maybe that you haven't had time, and actually work on those in this season. Sorry, Jamelia.
No, I think that's definitely a great point. And I think it's pretty much about finding the balance, because as Joanna said, we can choose this time how best we feel fit and how best it can allow us to simply survive. Because I know that at first I was like, right, I'm going to back up all my files, I'm going to do all my paperwork, I'm going to organize my laptop, I'm going to delete all the downloads. And I had all of these big plans, and by the end of week one, I was exhausted. And the plan is not to come out of this season exhausted. As said, we do need to set ourselves up well, so that when we come out the other end, we can actually thrive, whatever that looks like for our business. If we have to pivot completely, then we need to allow ourselves the mental space to actually think about that and think about what that looks like. So while yes, we can use the time to learn more skills, we also need to balance that with downtime and silence and stillness to allow us to actually have creative thought, scenario plan for the best, plan for the worst, plan for a completely different business when we come out of this. But I think it's pretty much about balance and just silencing the outside world, because Instagram, as Joanna said, will have you learning 3 languages, when really you need to catch up on sleep, because I know that my sleep has been exceptional because I've never spent this much time at home. So it's about what works for us, but allowing us to set ourselves up well to come out great on the other side. And coming out great on the other side could just look like having a good night's sleep for the last 3 months. That could actually be the defining thing that just helps us come out stronger. Or it could be the fact that we spent the last 3 weeks banging out spreadsheets and figuring out, okay, what's our new approach going to be? Who are our new customers going to be? How are we going to communicate with them? It can look either way, but I think we just need to trust ourselves enough to know what's going to work best for us and what's going to work best for our business. And as Ruth said, as business owners and business leaders, a lot of the time the business is kind of resting on our shoulders. And if we're beat down and exhausted when we come out of this, then we're going to put everyone in a really vulnerable state. So we do need to take care of ourselves, and we need to set ourselves up to win at the end of this, whatever that looks like.
Awesome. Okay, so we've got another question from Andy. So Andy says, and this is one for all of you, I guess, what advice do you have for those who want to start a business in this climate? Where to start? I'm sure you've all got a view on this.
I'll go first.
Okay.
I think just observation. I think so many like posts going around about what happened the last time there was an economic depression and the brands and the companies that were born out of that hard time. I think we should take heed of that, because clearly, simply by sitting back, observing, and most importantly, observing people's needs, because that's how businesses thrive. That's what makes a good business. You need to deliver value, and you need to fill a void, and you need to serve a need. So I think simply observing what is it that people really need during this time, and what's the kind of business that can survive these times. So ASOS seem to be doing really well. They seem to be doing really well with loungewear, with sportswear. I know a lot of personal trainers that are absolutely raking it in at the moment because they've been able to adapt. So I think just seeing who's doing well, who's struggling, and what can I learn from them. And as I said, what do people need in times like this? Because if people need things in times like this, when we return to our new normal, they're definitely going to need it then. So just thinking about what can survive and what can actually add value to people's lives and serve a need.
Awesome. Awesome.
I think also this is a good time to it's kind of been said already really, but just to future proof. So if you think about the current models that are out there, if you're thinking of, okay, I'd love to start a business and you're not quite sure yet on what that is, like I'd think about where there's been some shortcomings for companies who haven't seen this coming, and you know, maybe there's a gap in between you and them, whether it's a tech solution, or whether it's just thinking, like I never even realized, like the other day, I know what you were just saying, Jamelia, about like ASOS and tracksuits and things, but I couldn't get a dumbbell for love or money the other day. I couldn't find it anywhere. I was like, how have you left the planet? But like literally there were none, not even, I couldn't even get any in the US. So like I think, but then I thought, imagine if you stocked dumbbells right now, like this would be a really good thing. And like what you said around loungewear, like I don't even wear tracksuits. I ordered a load of tracksuits because I'm going to be in the house all the time. So I do think there is an opportunity to think about, well, what's kind of missing. And one thing, without giving like an idea, where I was thinking, like one of the biggest challenges for schools has been this Google Classrooms concept, and they're giving out handouts and just expecting parents to be able to teach through these handouts. Well, what about a day when actually we can create a classroom situation from the home? Like, I think if you look at the things that are really challenging families at the moment, it's going to be how they're educating their kids at the moment. It might be finding ways to remote work. So we've got Zoom and things like that, and they're all doing brilliantly, aren't they? Because guess what? We all have to remote work. So it's thinking about, well, what's been missing now that would have made this a lot easier, even around the social distancing thing, like the gloves and masks must have flown off the shelves, that there must be another technology or something that, you know, this is the time to get really creative and think what's missing. And point around the personal trainers, I actually know some that have really struggled in this time, mainly because no one's coming to their gym, and then they've lost their job, so they're going, the gym was a bit of a luxury actually, I'm going to use some YouTube videos instead and do what I can. And I've sort of said to some of them, how do you make sure that if this ever happens again, you don't become redundant once a gym closes and people sort of don't have as much disposable income? So I just think if you've got an idea at the moment, try and think of what's missing.
Awesome.
Sorry, Peter.
No, Ruth, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'll just, yeah,
Everything
go, Ruth. I'll go after you.
that Jamelia and Joanna have said, and just also anticipating how people's behaviours will change. So I know, even speaking to friends in beauty, for instance, how when we go to stores, even after this passes, I know that I will not be touching any surfaces outside without gloves. So in terms of business and how people interact, just kind of looking into the future and seeing how will people interact differently, and how will people's behaviours change in the long run. And so making sure that whatever business idea you have is going to fit within that new future.
Yeah, completely agreed. Peter?
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to say sometimes it's just the simple stuff, right? Because I think that Nell was hitting the head in regards to just meeting needs. And I think the intrinsic needs that people have always mainly remain the same, but just how they get those needs met and in what formats is shifting, right? So sometimes also you have to just kind of look at what you're already doing well, what your strengths are. Maybe you've got a fantastic product or service. Can that be adapted to meet the new way of working? Because I think it's not always necessarily coming up with, sometimes it is, but it's not always necessarily coming up with a brand new product or service or doing something totally different. It's just slightly adapting what you already have and maybe even narrowing in on the value that you add.
Completely right. So we've got a question from Ade. So Ade A, because we had Ade before, now we've got Ade A. So Ade A asks, what have you learned as a business during this period that will prepare you for the environment on the other end? That's a great question. Okay, I'm going to throw this to Ruth.
People genuinely crave authenticity, and I know it's one of those words like millennials that I actually can't stand because we just overuse it. Profile so many inspiring individuals, but actually people's success, I think people just want to see people who are real and people who are genuine. And I know, kind of even observing a lot of content creators, the ones that I've enjoyed more than just the kind of gimmicks, you're actually just getting an insight into their lives, and also just how they actually function as human beings. I think that's one thing that I've really seen from this period.
Awesome, thanks Ruth. Jamelia, do you have a view?
So much. One of the main things that I am always going to remember, and I actually had a meeting with my accountant the month before this all kicked off, and he said to me, cash is king, revenues vanity, and profits is sanity. And I was like, that is the best thing that I've ever heard. And it couldn't be more true now. I think if anyone ever underestimated the importance of cash flow, this has definitely taught us all a lesson. Just scenario planning is something that I'd never done it before, because I was like, this is the business plan, this is how it's always run, we're in our 5th year, it's always worked this way, it's always going to work this way. But no, things can change overnight, as they have. So I think just appreciating cash flow has definitely been a huge thing, and scenario planning, just being ready to pivot, change, just be as valuable as possible in order to just meet the circumstances that we're faced with.
Perfect.
Sorry, just to add, obviously, I know it sounds stupid, but the thing is that we value health that come first, whether it's our health system or how we look after our, when that does not work or when that's at risk, the whole of society just collapses. So I think, I will take from this.
I think as well, I've probably learned like that usually when you're like running the business and having that much pressure on yourself, like for as many years as it has been on, and literally having a full diary all the time, and like no, like everyone's shaking their head, like I think like when you're the one that's kind of, it's all on your shoulders, the legal side, the accountancy, the accounts part, the delivery, just everything, coming up with the new ideas, just future proof and everything. Even if you have got a team, you just feel like it is largely your responsibility. And also to not sound like you're giving up or getting really down, like when your consultants are really worried, and sometimes they're looking to you for that leadership, which is, you know, to show them that it's going to be okay, and some reassurance. And I think the one thing I've learned is that echoing. Hello, is that better? Yeah. The one thing I've learned is that if I don't look after my mental health and just my physical health, like I can't really do any of that. And so it's quite important, I think. Because one thing I've learned is this is so, and it's a really used word a lot now, but like self-care is so important because during times like this, there's so much uncertainty. It's impacting everyone in a really unique way because it's something none of us have ever really been through before. Some people are having to say goodbye to loved ones via like the phone, and like it's awful what they're going through. So I think like just trying to be a bit kinder to yourself and understanding that your business is great, but it's not your all. It doesn't have to be your all, and like your health and your family's health and the people you care about is the all, and I think everything else is like a bit of a bonus. So I know it sounds really airy fairy, but genuinely if you're not okay and managing, nothing else can happen anyway. Like, so I think if it's taught me anything, it's while sitting at home more and not having the opportunity to hide behind an event or to be switched on because you're doing a talk or you're running something, I've had to face some of the things really that you may get a chance to disguise or run away from normally. And so I just think be kind to yourself while you might be realizing some things about you or those around you, and just be a bit gentle with yourself during this period.
I think that's amazing. So we are close to the end.
Amelia, were you going to say something? You're muted, I think.
Okay. You're muted.
Yeah, there we go. I think that's perfect, Joanna. I think something that I realized is like moving at the pace at which we were moving before, it may have got us to this point, but I think it's made me realize that it's actually not necessary. Like it's fine to slow down. And I think we're actually gonna find out that we probably do a lot better working a lot slower and probably a lot less than we have been, like, because my schedule before was ridiculous. I was that person at the gym at 6 a.m. every single day, like, and then leaving the office when I felt like I had done enough, and it wasn't sustainable. And I feel like this has taught us that it's fine to slow down. You can actually work a lot smarter just by pausing for a minute. And I feel like this situation, as unfortunate as it is, has actually given us no choice but to completely slow down and at some points completely stop and think, all right, well, what can I do? How can I do it? And how can I do it more effectively? And then on a more personal level, I know that for me, it's definitely taught me how much everyone on the team, we actually need each other. Like no one is disposable at all. Like everyone does their job so well. Everyone supports everyone so well. It's just made me realize and just appreciate the level of expertise and just the level of talent that I get to work with every single day, because we wouldn't be able to have continued going if we weren't all as good at our jobs as we actually are. So I think it's just made me realize how much a team is important. Not that I ever undervalued that, but this has just shown me it on a completely different level. And I think it's also just shown me the importance of almost code switching. So like on conversations, we have conversations on 2 levels. On one level, it's like, okay, how did it go? All right, what are the deliverables? What do we need to do? What's the next steps? And then on the next step, it's like, are you okay? Like, are you sure you're okay? Do you need a minute? I think that's something that's really, really beautiful that we've done before, but we've done it while rushing to do something else. But now we can do it and actually listen to the answer and actually take action on the answer as well.
Awesome, thanks guys. So I'm conscious we've probably got about 45 seconds left before this webinar comes to an end, but I would just like to, I know so we've had some great closing words from Joanna, some great closing insights from Jamila. Ruth, if you can do it in 15 seconds, last thoughts for the guys.
Yeah, just more to take your time to be to the season that we're in, and the season wise.
Awesome. Peter?
Everyone, I co-sign what everyone said. They all just took me to church, so I've got nothing to add to that. Thank you.
Awesome. Great. So if anyone is interested in getting in contact with us, you can find us at Cornerstone Partners. That the website's www.cornerstonepartners.co.uk, or email us at info@cornerstonepartners.co.uk. Ruth, how do the guys reach you?
website.
Sorry, one more time, Ruth. It cut out.
My Instagram is Ruthie Mag, and our website is Mag that has all our email addresses and everything else.
Awesome. Jamelia, how do the guys reach you?
Our Instagram is Treasure Tress, our Facebook is Treasure Tress Box, and my personal Instagram is Jamelia is Obsessed.
Joanna, how do the guys reach you?
So it's just my full name on everything like LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and you can email me at joanna@createbluemoon.com.
Peter, how do the guys reach you other than at info@cornerstonepartners.co.uk?
I need to work on all of my social media handles. But yeah, peter@cornerstonepartners.co.uk
is a good way to start. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all for taking time to be a part of today's webinar. Yeah, I've taken away a lot. I'm sure the guys that have dialed in have taken away a lot. So thank you so much for taking time out on this Friday, which is also a good day to spend time with us. And we appreciate you, and we will speak to you all soon. And thank you so much, guys. Stay blessed.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Janelle. Take care, guys.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Take care.
Stay safe.
Bye.
Bye.